Hello, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Region 7 National History Day training. My name is Caitlin Beringer, and I'm the National History Day Coordinator for Heinz History Center. Today, we'll be talking about everything you need to know to effectively judge National History Day projects for students in grades 6 through 12. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this is a valuable use of your time, and I hope that you leave this training feeling prepared to be an effective judge. Let's go ahead and get started. To begin with a contest overview, National History Day is broken up into two divisions. The junior division is essentially the middle school division, made up of students in grades 7 and 8. The senior division is what we call our high school division, and students in grades 9 through 12 participate here. We have 5 project category options: exhibit, performance, website, documentary, and paper. Students who compete in the paper category are only participating individually. That is unique to the paper category. If students are in any of the 4 other project categories, they can choose to participate individually, or they can choose to participate as a group. So you will notice that if you are assigned website, for example, you are either assigned individual website or group website. You will also see that you are assigned to the junior division or the senior division. It is really important to note that students choose their own topics. Heinz History Center provides a suggested list of local history topics, but essentially it is up to the students about their topic, what they decide to do. The 2022 theme is Debate and Diplomacy in History, Successes, Failures, and Consequences. So as you are judging a project, no matter which category it is, something you are looking for is how does this student's topic relate to this year's theme? How strong of an argument are they making about debate and diplomacy in their topic? This year, exhibit and performance are the only categories that will be judged at Heinz History Center. So whether you are junior or senior, individual or group, if you are in the exhibit or performance categories, you will arrive at Heinz History Center on March 19th, and the only thing you need to do beforehand is 1, watch this training video, and 2, familiarize yourself with the rules specific to your category. Website, documentary, and paper are our virtual categories, so that judging looks a little bit different. If you are in one of those categories, we would also like you to watch this training video, but also attend a special training webinar that we are doing on March 9th. The reason for the second training is because all of this is done virtually in our ZFairs website, and that can sometimes be a little tricky if you're not familiar with it. So please plan on attending our March 9th training as well. It is important to note that 1st through 3rd place winners in each category move on to the state competition, and we'll talk in just a little bit about how you determine those winners. So the evaluation process. Each entry is judged within its division and category by at least 1 team of judges. Rather than give each entry a numerical score, think of like a grade, a 93%, judges work together to do what we call consensus judging. After viewing the projects, they deliberate together to rank projects based on strengths and needs for improvement. Be sure that when you are judging projects, you are also looking at the written components. So how those written components are submitted depends on which category you are in. If you are judging exhibit or performance, students will bring hard copies of their title page, their annotated bibliography, and their process paper with them. You are permitted to take those copies with you to the judge deliberation room to look those over as you are determining the winners. Students in the website, documentary, and paper categories submit those virtually. Be sure to consult the rule book. The way that students submit those also depends on what category they're in. Website, for example, the annotated bibliography is part of the website. It is not a separate document. The rule book will give you more information about where you can find those documents. It's also important to note that judges who are in person are only going to be the ones that are interviewing students. So we have decided to forego virtual interviews with students for a host of reasons. So those virtual students will submit their projects on March 7th. You will be assigned those projects closer to March 10th. You will have a week to look those over before you deliberate virtually with your judges. Now, if you are an on-site judge, you will, let's say, go through the exhibit hall, view the exhibits, interview students one-on-one, and then deliberate together privately. Please note that the interviews are designed to be a positive experience for students only. It is not designed to be part of the judging process. So when you are sitting down with judges, it is not designed that you are saying, Sally really did great in the interview, let's make her the winner. The interview and how well students do in the interview is not meant to be a part of judging. It is meant to allow you to ask clarifying questions and mostly meant to be a positive experience for students. Runoffs may be used to decide winners. So what that means is that sometimes there are too many entries for one team. This year in junior individual documentary and junior individual exhibit, for example, as well as some other categories, will need runoffs. So that means that there are too many projects for one team, so there are two judging teams. Each team will view half of the total projects. The team will then put forward first through third place contenders, and a final team will judge those 6 entries. Final teams are made up of the captains of each team plus one more volunteer judge. We will talk more about that a little bit later. So the judging criteria is 80% historical quality and 20% clarity of presentation. The NHD contest rulebook lists 5 essential project elements: historical context, multiple perspectives, historical accuracy, historical significance, and historical argument based on theme. You will notice that all of those things make up the historical quality section of judging. The other 20% is clarity of presentation, which is essentially how well students are using technical and category-specific criteria to communicate their ideas. The rubric for historical quality looks pretty much the same across the board, no matter what category you are judging, but the clarity of presentation section looks a lot different because this is the really technical portion. So for example, documentary has a lot of technical criteria about how well students actually produced a documentary, not necessarily the content of their documentary. Be sure to also pay close attention to student voice. This is something that was added to the judging criteria recently. It was only added to the rulebook in 2020. So if you took a couple years off and you've been doing this for a while, you might not be familiar with that. Student voice is, of course, how well are they using arguments and their project to communicate their own ideas rather than just sort of mimicking the ideas of, let's say, their secondary sources. Let's go ahead and look at some samples. So this is the first page of the evaluation form that you will each be given. On-site judges will be given hard copies of this form. Virtual judges will be judging in our ZFAIR's website where you registered, and you'll see a virtual version of this exact form. So on the first page of the form is historical quality. Again, this is like the meat of the score. This is 80% of the overall score. The left side of the rubric lists the evaluation criteria we discussed a moment ago. You see things like primary sources, theme, historical accuracy, all of those sort of big ideas, the foundation of the projects. The top of the rubric lists our ratings: exemplary, proficient, developing, novice, or if it's not there at all, it's of course not evident. Below this form, there's an area for written feedback of strengths and areas for improvement. Please do not skip this part. Students really value judges' feedback. They're really anxious to see what you thought of their project. Of course, make sure that you're giving everyone a strength, even if you think it was a really weak project. We want to encourage students throughout this process. It's important to note that first through third moves on to states. So they will be actively revising their projects before then. And the first place they're going to look for advice on how to do that is these feedback forms. So here is the second page of the evaluation form. This is the clarity of presentation section, which is 20% of the overall score. Like I mentioned before, this page may look different than yours depending on what category you're judging. This is specific to documentary. At the bottom of this page, you'll see a small summary of the major rules for this category. You simply check yes or no, and you leave any relevant comments below. Again, on-site judges will receive hard copies of these forms. Virtual judges will be able to access these on ZFairs. Specific instructions for virtual judges about how to access these and how to fill them out will be available in our March 9th webinar. Something we get a lot of questions about is rule infractions versus rule disqualifications. It's really important to note that the only grounds for disqualification are really three things. One, reusing an entry from a previous year. Two, plagiarism. Three, tampering with another entry. If you see any of these things and you aren't totally sure about the process of disqualifying or if you should or what that looks like, please come find me on site. I will be handling the virtual judging in the morning, so feel free to email me directly. I'll be waiting for emails all morning, and my colleagues will be handling the on-site judging in the morning. I will be there, of course, all afternoon. So find me, find a Heinz History staff person if you think this is the case. Most likely, however, things are not rules for disqualification, but rather minor infractions or major infractions. So you can look at this little chart here to give you an idea. You might be surprised about how minor you think a major infraction is. What I mean, for example, is that if a performance goes over the 10-minute limit by more than 5 to 10 seconds, if it goes over 11 seconds, that is a major infraction, and it should be considered as such while deliberating. It is ultimately up to your judging team about whether or not you allow a project with rule infractions to move forward. If there are any kinds of infractions, they should be noted on the judging sheets, but that doesn't necessarily disqualify students from moving forward. The next thing I wanted to quickly discuss is captain expectations. All of our judging teams are made up of 3 individuals. We have 2 regular judges and 1 captain. The captain is the designated expert in the room. It's likely the person on the team who has the most years of experience judging or being involved with NHD in some other way. Captains will lead their groups in deliberation, and they will help with any questions that group members have. So again, judging is a consensus system, meaning all judges have to sort of agree about things. But you run into any problems about maybe rules or specific aspects of NHD, you would go to your captain with those specific questions, and you would trust your captain as the person of having the most knowledge in the area. Captains are also responsible for completing the ranking sheets. So in addition to your evaluation forms, each team will receive a ranking sheet that lists the projects and has areas for you to circle of which project is first, second, and third. It is the captain's individual responsibility to make sure that we get those ranking sheets in a timely fashion. So our on-site judges will have a designated space in Wise Broad, the judging room, of where those forms can go. Virtual judges will submit these on ZFairs. Again, I will show you how to do this. And in addition, email winning entries to NHD Pittsburgh. In addition to completing the ranking sheets, our captains are also our timekeepers. As you know, really easy to talk about students' NHD projects for endless amounts of time. They have spent months on these projects. There's a lot of things to consider, but we have to be mindful of time. So it's really important to ensure that you're giving each interview the same amount of time, for example, and not exceeding the allotted time for deliberation. That is another captain responsibility. And finally, judge runoffs. So like I mentioned before, if we have a category like junior individual website that has, say, 20 entries, Team 1 will be looking at 10 entries, Team 2 will be looking at the second 10 entries. Each team will put forward their top 3 winners, and then those 6 final projects will be in our finalist or our runoff round. Each captain of those 2 junior individual website teams will be expected to judge the finalists and recruit 1 person from either team to help. So our finalist judging round will still be a team of 3 judges. It will be 2 captains and 1 other person from either team. What to expect on competition day? I know that we've got a lot of questions about this. So I've broken it up into on-site judges and virtual judges just because the expectations are very different depending on what you have signed up for. On-site judges will arrive at Heinz History Center either in the morning or the afternoon. You will arrive in the morning if you are a junior judge, or the afternoon if you are a senior judge. The schedule has been sent out, but I will send out reminders of those specific times. You will check in at the registration table. This will be in the Great Hall. Right when you walk in, you will see the tables and some staff members there. You will then go straight to Wisebroad for the judges meeting. During this meeting, you will receive specific project assignments. You will receive all of your forms. You'll have a chance to look those over, ask questions, and meet your fellow judges. As a team, you will then review projects and deliberate. So you will either go view performances or go to the exhibit hall for your allotted time, then come back together and deliberate. The sneaky way that you will know if you are in a runoff team is if your team name has either Team 1 or Team 2. So if you are just performances, for example, that's kind of a heads up to you right now that there is just your team. There is not another team and you do not have to worry about runoffs. If you are group documentary Team 1, you will know that there is also a Team 2 somewhere out there. So for virtual judges, all of virtual judging will take place in the morning on March 19th, whether you are doing junior projects or senior projects. You will tune in virtually to our judges meeting, and a link and all of those details will be sent out a little later on. You will be automatically placed into breakout rooms with your other judges to discuss projects. It's really important to note that this time allotted with judges is for discussion. It is not designed to be a time when you first take a look at those projects. So if you have signed up to be a virtual judge, you will get your projects a week and a half in advance. Please, please, please take the time to look over those projects, complete your evaluation forms, make some notes so you are ready to go to meet with your fellow judges to discuss those virtual projects. Again, if you have a Team 1 or a Team 2 in your name, you know that there will be a virtual runoff. Same thing applies with our virtual runoff. We have captains of each team +1, and our captains, of course, will submit the winners on ZFairs and email me the names and the titles of the winning projects. To conclude, I have just a few resources here. The first is the link to the NHD contest rulebook. This is really well organized, really simple. I suggest that everyone read the general rules, then use the table of contents, of course, to find your specific section, familiarize yourself with those specific rules. Or if you're not a fan of kind of dry rule books, I highly suggest these rule videos on YouTube. NHD has produced these, so they are top notch. You can watch a video about general rules and then just find your specific category. I know we covered a lot of information today. I know it is the first time judging for many of you, so I fully expect you to have questions and not to know everything right off the bat. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to email me anytime. My direct email is included below, kabaringer@heinzhistorycenter.org. Thank you all very much for joining me. I really appreciate the time that you are spending to prepare yourself to judge National History Day. Thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you all very soon.